I just rented this property in 7 days and I'm going to show you how. So I've just purchased this property, 2 bedrooms in Christchurch, and it's a townhouse, and it's located in Addington. So the property's here, central Christchurch up here. And if you've been following for a while, you'll know that Addington is one of the top suburbs that I recommended in this video about the best places to invest in Christchurch. Now let's take a look at the property. On the downstairs, we've got a nice kitchen and a lounge, and then upstairs we've got 2 double bedrooms and a really nice bathroom as well. Now, some people down in the comment section are going to say, Ed, I really hate the colour of the second story. It's pretty dull. And you know what? I agree with you. It's not the prettiest thing on the street. But here's the thing. Doesn't matter. This is an investment property. I'm not going to live in it. And I got a really good price, so I don't think that the paint job is going to impact how quickly the property increases in value, and it's certainly not going to impact how quickly I could get a tenant, because I had tenants applying to live in this within 7 days of listing. Here's how. The first thing you're going to do is list your property on Trade Me at the right time. This is especially the case if you're investing in a new build. So we listed that property on the 14th of April 2023. Now we did that because I was due to pay and settle the property on the 19th. Now it's important that you don't list your property too far in advance. Some property investors will say, I want it listed 2 to 3 weeks before I'm due to settle so I get a tenant in time. You often don't want to do that, and I'll show you the reason why. While I was due to settle and pay for that property on the 19th, I actually had to push that out by a week because I had issues with finance. So due to settle on the 27th, that is my new date. Now, if my tenants were due to move in on the 20th, and then I pushed out the day that I was officially going to own and pay for the property, then I would have to pay to put them up in a hotel for that week that I don't own the property and they can't move in yet. So really important, list it a week in advance, not 2 to 3 weeks. That also means that there's some urgency, and you can say to tenants, hey, it's available next week. So people who are willing to move quickly, they've got a property there. Next, you've got to get the price right, and that's especially the case if you're investing in a new build, because what happens is a development gets completed and there might be 40 townhouses within that development. A whole heap of those are going to be looking for tenants at the same time. So if I look at my property, there are about 6 different listings of properties all looking for tenants at one time. Now, when we first put these listings live, my property management company, Venture, which is a sister company of this YouTube channel, we're letting these out at $495 per week. Now, at the time, both Bailey's and I believe Rentwise were listing them at $500 a week. They've since come down. And the reason is that just that $5 discount per week, that is enough to get a tenant more quickly than if it was $5 more expensive, because a tenant would say, well, why am I going to get this one at what was $500 a week? I'll just get the identical one next door for $495. So you've got to be smart about it. And I should say that although my property rented in just 7 days, that's not always going to be the case. On average, it takes 2 to 3 weeks to find a tenant for a property, but sometimes it's going to be more, sometimes it's going to be less. But one way to get it to be less, one way to rent your property quicker, is to be smart about it. And I want to show you one other thing that this property management company does that's a bit different from some of the others. So what Venture Management currently does is if you go to the listing, the main call to action is book a viewing or inquire. Now, this means that a tenant can come on here and they can book into a viewing directly on Trade Me. Now, if you compare that to some other property management companies, so if I look at the Bailey's listing, the main call to action, the next step for the tenants is to call or email the property manager. Well, that's not as easy as if you're just coming on here and booking directly into a viewing, which is what we just did. One other stupidly simple way to get your property rented fast is to just use good photos. So if you look at the photos from my property, they're really clear. They're not professional photos, just taken on an iPhone, but as a tenant looking at these, you get a really good sense of what the property looks like. Let's look at a competing listing. This one is from Positive Asset Management. Now, as I'm flicking through, some of these photos look a bit more pixelated. They're not as high a quality, and that makes it more difficult to get a sense of, well, as a tenant, what does this property actually look like? And what would you do? Would you sit here looking at the ones that are a bit more pixelated, a bit lower quality, or would you go and look at the listing where the photos are more clear? You've got to look at the ones that have better photos, and because of that, my listing was the one that got a tenant more quickly. The other thing these guys have done, and it can be quite clever, some people like this, is they've digitally staged this listing. So this dining room table, the chairs, they're not actually there. They've been photoshopped in. Now, this can help tenants get a sense of, well, what would it be like to live in this property? But it can also have some drawbacks. So sometimes our property management company has done this in the past, but then tenants turn up and they expect the property to be staged. And then when it's empty, they say, well, it doesn't look like what it did in the photos. I don't actually want this place. So that's where, if you digitally stage it, or if you post photos where it is staged, you might get people turning up wanting to rent your house, but then they get disappointed because it doesn't look like it did in the photo. So personally, I wouldn't be doing this. And actually, that's one of the tips we often talk about on this YouTube channel. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe. We release new videos on Monday and Wednesday. And lastly, if you want to rent your property fast, you've got to buy the right property. So I purchased this in Addington, Christchurch, very popular suburb with tenants, and it's a 2-bedroom townhouse at the affordable end, so it was always going to be very popular. And actually, I purchased this through Opus Partners, which is the company behind this YouTube channel. So if you want to buy an investment property like I have, check out our website, opuspartners.co.nz. We help regular Kiwis grow their wealth through new build investment properties.